Hello, this is Mrs. Warren. This is coming to you from BBJH. This video is for students that are or has been absent on January 12th, which is the Friday of the first day of school after the break. Now, on the previous days, I gave you a homework assignment on George Washington's farewell address. If you have not turned that in, you need to do so pretty darn quick. And for right now, you need an Adams handout to record the notes. With these video lectures, they're much smaller than what you see in class. Please ask any questions you need to. I'm just going over the basic information about Adams' presidency. All the videos that you see on the screen as I go through it, you're going to have to plug into YouTube yourself. So I've provided shortened URLs. I am giving you those and requiring you to watch them. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Now, anything in yellow you're going to add to your notes. Now, this is from a rollover from our lessons on Washington. We did Washington's farewell address. This was his last speech to the nation. This was a precedent that many other presidents now still do, where they address the nation the last time. Now he gives two pieces of advice. He said, do not make alliances with foreign countries. Stay neutral. Now this is something that they did. Our countries, they did it the best. We know that the United States was not in a position to be able to go to war with anybody. We were not comfortable with that. This was very good advice. Political parties, he said he believed that political parties would tear up the country, that instead of looking for things for our country, that what they would do, they would just look for things that were best for their political party instead. That was advice that we did not take. This right here, this segment right here in yellow, what you see, will go on page 3 with your Washington notes. We reviewed a little bit over Hamilton and Jefferson. You can look at those and look at your notes on page 4 and 5. Double check. And we began talking about John Adams. Now, John Adams is our second president, and he served from 1797 to 1801. Add that to your notes. Now, he was a very different president. Very underrated. Please watch this John Adams, a tribute video. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long, and it kind of gives you an overview of how he has contributed to our country. And again, you can always come back to the notes. Now, in the key events of your notes, there are two things that you're going to want to put in that first box. There are two major events. One was the XYZ affair, and another one was called the Alien and Sedition Acts. So put a bullet in that first box for XYZ affair. John Adams was the first and only Federalist president, and he is the only president, founding father president, that doesn't have a monument in Washington, D.C. Now, which a lot of people think is because his presidency wasn't all that successful. And it wasn't for different reasons, but when you watch that tribute, you can imagine all the different things that he contributed to our nation. He is a very underrated president and a great American. Now, over in Europe, France, Spain, and England are fighting. We tried to negotiate a treaty with France and say, hey, France, stop attacking our ships when we send stuff to Britain or when we send stuff to Spain. And they say, well, if you want us to stop harassing you, give us a bribe. Our ambassadors came back, and they were so mad they want to go to war. People want to go to war. How dare France demand a bribe from the United States? It's like a bully in a playground. But John Adams knew how important it was to stay neutral, so he does. He negotiates another treaty. France backs off. Now, it's called XYZ affair, because the three people, Frenchmen, who were offering this arrangement was called Mr. X, Mr. Y, and Mr. Z. Please watch the YouTube, the XYZ affair, and that'll give you a little bit more information. Now, the second major event that happens in John Adams' presidency is called the Alien and Sedition Acts, and this was really what made him an unpopular president. Now, this right here should go up in key events, and the following notes will go in the section of your notes that for Alien and Sedition Acts. America was really worried about France, and France becoming and infiltrating the United States and coming in as immigrants, and because a lot of refugees were coming from the French Revolution, and everybody was just kind of a little paranoid, and as well was the government. So one of the first laws that were passed by Congress is called the Alien Acts, and what these were unfair laws that that held back immigrants from becoming citizens, and so they would not vote for the other Federalist Party. The other part was called the Sedition Acts. These said that if you talked badly about the government or the president, that you could be fined or jailed. Now, as you know, this violates the First Amendment. Please add that to your notes too. It's a violation of the First Amendment. And Thomas Jefferson, who was his vice president, spoke out very loudly against John Adams and believed this was a way that the government was now exercising its power and abusing its power. This law eventually ran its time, and when Adams tries to run for president again in 1800, this is one of the things that stops him from getting reelected. People just didn't really like the way that he was, that he took advantage. Now, that's it for John Adams. He only served for one term. So at this time, this will go, John Adams, you'll trim this and you'll put this on page, I believe it's page 7 of your notes. On Monday, we will go over the election of 1800, and we'll talk about Thomas Jefferson. If you have any questions or comments about this, or you need to more, or you want to check your notes with me, I have a hard copy. Please come see me. You know where to find me.